Curious George at the ballet. George was excited. The man with the yellow hat was taking him to the theater to see their friend Pedro, who was a dancer. "If you hurry, George," said the man, "we can visit Pedro before he goes on stage." Inside the theater, all the dancers were getting ready. Some were lacing up their ballet slippers. Some were exercising at the bar. And there was Pedro. He was wearing short pants and a shirt with patches all over it. "We are dancing the story of Jack and the Beanstalk tonight, and I'm playing Jack," Pedro said. "First, I will plant these magic beans in the ground, and then, when the beanstalk grows, I'll climb up to the sky. Let me show you." Lying on the ground was a long, thick piece of green cloth. Suddenly, the cloth began to rise, right to the top of the theater. Now it was a giant beanstalk with green leaves. How did that happen? George was curious. He saw the man in the black jacket at the top of the stage. "I am just testing the magic beanstalk for our dance," the man said. "After Pedro plants the magic beans, I will pull this wire, and the people in the audience will think the beanstalk is really growing." By this time, the audience was seated, and the orchestra began to play. "Oh my," said the man in the black jacket. "I'd better put the beanstalk back down to the ground. They're almost ready to begin." It was time for George to take his seat in the audience. On his way, he saw a big painted mask. George was curious. He lifted it up and put it over his head. It was so big that it covered him right to his toes. It was dark inside. George couldn't see where he was going. Then he heard people laugh. George had walked on stage just as Pedro began to dance. The people in the audience were laughing so hard that Pedro had to stop. "George," he whispered, "get off the stage. I'm in the middle of my dance." George pushed off the mask and ran up the ladder to the top of the stage. Pedro had started to dance again. Now Pedro was planting the magic beans. George was watching. Then he noticed the man in the black jacket. The man looked as if he was in trouble. The wire from the magic beanstalk had broken. "George," he said, "I'm so glad you're here. I need your help. Climb down to the back of the stage and grab the top of the beanstalk. You can wear my black jacket so no one will see you." How good that George was a monkey. Quickly, he went down the curtain, grabbed the beanstalk, climbed back up, and handed the beanstalk back to the man. Now, Pedro could climb right to the top. The audience cheered. "Bravo! Bravo!" When the curtain was down, Pedro turned to George. "You saved the show," he said. "Thanks a lot." When the curtain went up again, there was George in his black jacket taking a bow with Pedro. "Hooray for Pedro!" the audience shouted. "And hooray for George!" The man with the yellow hat clapped the loudest of all.